Okay, so let's try to unravel a really interesting economic detective story. It's all about how the Federal Reserve actually steers our economy. And, the ending has this twist that reveals where the Fed's true power really comes from. It's pretty surprising.
So, you see the headlines all the time, right? The Fed raises interest rates by just 0.25%, and boom, the whole market just freaks out. It seems like such a tiny, tiny number. How could it possibly cause such a huge reaction? How does that little change ripple through an economy that's worth trillions of dollars? Well, that's the central question behind what economists call the monetary transmission mechanism. And this is where it gets really interesting, because when we start digging into the data, we find a genuine puzzle. For decades, the link between what the Fed did and how the economy reacted, it was pretty predictable. But then something weird happened. Now check this out. This chart tells a fascinating story. Before the 1980s, the relationship was exactly what you'd expect. When the Fed raised interest rates, economic growth would slow down. Simple, a negative correlation. But after the mid-1980s, that relationship just completely flipped on its head. Higher interest rates were suddenly linked with stronger economic growth. That's bizarre. It's like hitting the brakes in your car and watching it speed up. So what on earth was going on?
This is it. This is our central question. To solve this whole mystery, we need to figure out how the Fed's signals are actually transmitted to the rest of the economy. We've got to investigate the usual suspects.
So when the Fed changes its main policy rate, the effects kind of ripple outwards through a few different pathways. You can think of them like different roads that a message can take to get from point A to point B.
First up, you've got the most obvious one, the interest rate channel. This is the direct route. The Fed raises rates, and it just becomes more expensive for you to get a mortgage, or for a company to finance a new factory, or even to get a car loan. People and businesses borrow less, they spend less, and the economy starts to cool down. Straightforward. Next on the list is the wealth channel. Now, when interest rates are low, things like stocks and houses become a lot more attractive, so their prices go up. And when homeowners and investors see their net worth climb, they feel wealthier. And that feeling, well, it often translates into more spending at the mall.
All right, our third suspect is the credit channel. This one's a little more complex, but it's really important for our story. See, in the past, there were these old regulations. One was called Regulation Q that basically put a cap on the interest that banks could pay you for your savings. So when the Fed raised rates, people would pull their money out of the bank to chase higher returns somewhere else. And this left the banks with way less money to lend out, which really hammered the mortgage market. It was a powerful tool for sure, but also a really blunt one.
So we have our suspects lined up: direct interest rates, wealth effects, and the credit supply. And the big financial deregulation in the early 80s that got rid of stuff like Regulation Q, it seems like a smoking gun. It feels like the credit channel must have been the thing that changed. But the real answer is so much more interesting. So, which one was it? Was it the interest rate channel, the wealth channel, or that old credit channel that changed so drastically?
And while, the credit channel definitely did change, it turns out the biggest shift wasn't really in any of these traditional mechanisms at all.
The basic plumbing of the economy, how interest rates affect borrowing or how wealth affects spending, that didn't fundamentally change. The biggest change, the real game changer, was in the Fed's own behavior. The way it did its job, the way it talked to the public, the way it thought about its mission, that's what was completely transformed.
And this brings us to the real key, something called the expectations channel. The idea here is that the Fed's most powerful tool isn't just yanking rates up or down today. No, it's shaping what everyone believes it will do tomorrow. By becoming predictable and by getting totally laser-focused on keeping inflation stable, the Fed built up credibility.
This slide captures the difference perfectly. Think of the pre-1980s Fed as trying to steer a giant ship with these sudden, jerky movements. The crew, and that's us, businesses and consumers, was just constantly being thrown off balance. But the post-1980s Fed learned to announce its course clearly ahead of time. It started saying, hey, if inflation gets too hot, we are going to raise rates. And because everyone knew the playbook, they could actually prepare for it. The ride got so much smoother and the economy became a lot more stable.
Okay, so that's the theory. If the Fed became more predictable, what did that actually do to the impact of its rate hikes? Let's take a look at the evidence.
What the research found was pretty clear. After the mid-80s, the shock of an unexpected rate hike on the economy got a lot smaller, a lot more muted. So why? Well, because there were way fewer truly unexpected shocks. When the Fed acts in a way everyone sees coming, a lot of that action is already priced in by the market before it even happens. The move itself becomes less of a jolt and more just a confirmation of what everyone was already expecting. And look, this isn't just some academic puzzle. This shift in how the Fed operates has had huge, profound consequences for the stability of the entire U.S. economy.
This change in Fed strategy lines up almost perfectly with this period that economists call the Great Moderation. It was this long stretch from the mid-80s to the mid-2000s where the economy was just remarkably stable. By anchoring everyone's expectations about inflation, the Fed could suddenly guide the economy with a much lighter touch, and it helped prevent those wild swings that we saw in earlier decades.
So the crucial point, the main takeaway, is this. The Fed's power doesn't just come from its ability to literally move interest rates. It comes from its credibility. A central bank that has earned the public's trust can steer the entire economy with gentle nudges instead of big shoves, all because its most powerful tool is managing what we all believe is going to happen next.
But this research, which covers the period up to 2008, leaves us with a really pressing question for today. I mean, since then, we've had a global financial crisis, a once-in-a-century pandemic, and years of interest rates at basically zero. In this new, much more volatile world, is the playbook that worked so well for decades still the right one? Or is the Fed's transmission mechanism and the very source of its power about to change all over again?